Greetings Internet, DDA here with the second Set 4 deck profile. I posted about this deck online and how awesome it was. Saiyan Raditz. Saiyan Raditz dual victory. The main victory conditions of this deck. Its primary win condition is going to be MPPV. And the main reason for that is, it's not this mastery. I don't actually have the Rampaging mastery, so we're just going to pretend, we're just going to remove that. We're going to pretend this is Rampaging, new mastery, the one you can actually win by MPPV with. So I don't actually own that mastery yet because I'm a scrub and poor and I don't have any real Set 4 product purchase yet, so we're going to hopefully solve that soon. But the main reason why we're playing Raditz in MPPV with the new Saiyan mastery is because the level 1 gains you anger and also gets you a card in your hand, so it's anger and card advantage, so double anger, essentially 2 or 3 anger possibly with this level. So with the Rampaging mastery, you only need 4 anger to level, so almost, the level 1 power is almost a guaranteed level right off the bat. Level 2 also helps you level. Whenever one of your setups or drills enters play during combat, you're going to raise your anger 1. So that will help you out with some combos we're going to show you later. Level 3 is just extremely solid. You kill a card when entering combat at your opponent's hand. So it's either going to be the 1 card that he's holding if you're the aggressor, or it's going to be any of the 4 cards that he's going to get if he enters on you. So either way, this is an extremely powerful ability. If your opponent enters on you with a Wallbreaker that he wants to use or is holding a Wallbreaker on you, chances are you're going to be able to pick that off with the 3 ability. And the level 4 is just spectacular. It does so much for helping you survive late game. Whenever one of your setups or drills enters play, choose a card in your discard pile and rejuvenate it. And this actually is the fuel for a not infinite, but semi-infinite combo with Saiyan Menace. And then the main part ability, first time you use a critical damage effect each combat, you may search your life deck or discard pile for a setup or drill and place it into play. So you're going to get a free setup or drill, which this deck doesn't play any drills. So you're going to get a setup. Usually that would be Saiyan Enraged, so getting you much closer to the MPP victory. So let's just scan over the list here. We got few physical attacks, few energy attacks. We do have beats or survival as our secondary win condition. So we're not going to shy away from the attacks. And of course, the mastery gains us an anger every time we hit one of our styled attacks. So we're going to want to play a fair amount of style attacks and also be defensive because, we're going to want to shy away from crits, and we're also going to want to last long enough, as long as it takes us to actually MPPV. So why don't we just start with some of the attacks here and why we play them. So Saiyan Elbow Drop, it's essentially a 2 anger card in this deck because all your style attacks gain hit, raise your anger, so your double attacks, will be 2 anger. And likewise with the Spin Kick, there are actually only, I think, 3 cards in Saiyan that gain immediate anger, one being Spin Kick, one being Left Kick, and the other, we don't play it. It's, I think, Energy Toss, I think it's Energy Toss. The one that if you're stronger, you gain an anger, and the rest of your attacks do plus damage, plus 2 damage. We don't play that because Raditz is relatively weak, but this one's great. It's going to raise your anger, destroy an ally, which also really helps out in the tag team matchup because it destroys an ally, so that is not critical damage. Backbreaker, another double attack and also Wallbreaker tech. This deck can do damage, but it doesn't do a lot of damage, so we're going to need some hard counters, hard answers to Wallbreaker when we get Wallbreakered, so we can get it off us, and Backbreaker is one of those, while being also a double attack that you can self-activate. We do play attach cards. We play Saiyan Rescue and Saiyan Strength Test. Rescue, of course, being Just great for mitigation and just making us survive longer, as well as triggering the Menace combo. And Strength Test just being a really good counter to Namekian. And that's the only reason that Strength Test is in the deck, because it's a great counter to Namekian. Because every time you're going to raise your anger, you're going to banish the bottom card of your opponent's discard pile. Pretty good card. So 3 body blows. Of course, I just went over these 2 attached cards here. We also have Offensive Guard, which is an attached card, which is a Guardian Drill-esque ability. So you can actually attach it with Body Blow and then shuffle it with Backbreaker if you wish. And also, Backbreaker is really great for this because Offensive Guard actually banishes when you change levels. So if you're about to change levels, why not just shuffle your Offensive Guard into your life deck with Backbreaker? So we run Wallbreaker at 1 right now. There's not too much. Like I said, our damage is low, although we can pump out some damage if we get Tree of Might, which is another attached card that we play. So if we get Tree of Might, we can pump out some damage, but overall our damage is low, so we're going to need some kind of counter to anger decks, since we're not going to be really doing critical damage. So Wallbreaker is that answer, as well as 3 devastating blows. Now this is not going to trigger the mastery, and that's okay, but it has great anti-anger as well as discard pile removal. This is our main source of discard pile removal, the other being Strength Test, so really needed in the Namekian matchup. Likewise, Sagacious Strike is great when you're on your level 4. Also, Wallbreaker tech again. And Left Kick is probably my favorite attack in the deck. It's immediate anger and it goes straight for the life, so it can actually do, the upwards of 6 or 7 life cards, possibly critical damage. Enraged Blast is just needed. It's 2 anger. Most of the goal of this deck again is MPPV. And while the mastery gives hit on your style attacks, you're going to want some guaranteed anger. So that's why we play the Left Kick, we play the Enraged Blast, we play the Spin Kick. So we have some guaranteed anger. We don't always have to rely on the mastery completely. So that's it for attacks. Let's look at some of the blocks, I guess. Why not? We'll come over here to blocks. We're running a full board of the 2 endurance blocks. I love these guys because they gain anger. They're hard blocks, hard blocks to physicals and energies. They gain anger as well as they can be dropped for the mastery for a physical for 3 stages. So if you really don't want, if you have them in your hand and you really don't want to block an attack, you can always just do a physical attack. And it is modified by tree, so you can actually make it do 5 stages, which would be nice. 3 Outrage is pretty standard. Get those attached cards in play. Really, you play it because it's an Omni block. So you actually have 7 Omni blocks. You have 3 in Outrage. And of course, Offensive Guard can be used as an Omni block. So you have, and then of course, Time. So we have 7 Omni blocks. And then we have 3 hard physical, 3 hard energy blocks. So a fair amount of blocks. And we have 3 Staredowns. Just need these guys. Great for just slowing down the combat. I especially love Staredown when you're on your 3. That's really nice because you can enter on them, kill the best card in their hand, the card they're holding, and then stare down and take the second best card. So you can basically just cripple them for the combat. Drive-By. Amazing, amazing card. And we'll go over the combo with this guy a little later. But essentially, this deck, it does do survival. It has some physical beats. Has all those physical beats. Especially if you get out Tree of Might, you can do a lot of beats. And then you got milling. So you can do Drive-By. And the only thing that's sad about this card is because you only need 4 anger to level, you're only really going to get a 2 or a 3 card mill with this. But the main use of this card is to get Menace in play, because if you choose a card with Endurance to go to the top, you choose another card and rejuvenate it. It's also really good on Raditz's level 1 power because you can choose any card and then draw it with Raditz's power. And probably the best card in this deck is right here, Saiyan Scouting. This card can do pretty much anything you want it to do. You choose any 2 cards to go from your discard pile to the top of your life deck, any 2 cards. So, place Time and, a Saiyan Enraged. if your opponent entered on you, or you know, just put time, just keep putting time to the top of your life deck, or put the really good anger cards, like put a left kick up there, put some Enraged Blast up there. Like it does anything you want. And then in the least, if you don't want to use it for its ability, you can drop it for a 5-stage physical. So and I've actually done this, like first turn, drawing a really aggressive hand, like maybe an elbow drop, or you know, a spin kick and a scouting in my hand. Just enter and open up with the mastery with scouting for a 5-stage physical, knock the opponent to 0. They'll stop it. They don't want to be hit to 0, so they're just blocking this needless physical that you're throwing at them, and that's okay. So as far as setups go, our setup, we got 3 Intimidation for just great board clear. They kill anything you want on the board, setup, drill, or ally. So anything you want, anything you care about on the board, you just kill it. 3 Saiyan Menace. This is the card that everyone talks about with Raditz. The combo card. I've won games with this, and the reason that they talk about it is because they hate it. Because it's so good. If this card is rejuvenated, you may place it in play instead. Hello. We got Rescue. We got Drive-By. We got Rejuvenations. We can place this into play, and we'll go over some of those combos, but all of your opponent's personalities lose 3 stages. So this is a primary physical beat deck. You know, we only have really 1 energy, and that's Enraged Blast. But being a physical beatdown deck, and you know, Raditz is not strong. You know, you're at B, you get to C on your level 2, but that's it. Then you're C. You don't leave C. So you want to knock them to 0. Well, not knock them. You want to drain them to 0 with Menace. That way your physicals are doing true damage. 3 Enraged. This is a big contributor to the MPB victory that you're going to have. It just gains 2 anger. You rejuvenate 2. Now, granted, you're not going to be getting, it's not going to be the 4 anger like it is for the old mastery. But chances are, usually, I do end up drawing a card with this, even though Raditz is so weak, because usually I can beat them to 0 and then just level up with this card, ensuring I draw a card. And then, of course, 1 Tree of Might just for the really strong physical beats, just throwing it out there like Body Blow first turn for a nice 5 damage. And then, of course, visiting the past just to get any card that I want. Now, this deck, this is an early version of the deck. A slightly refined version. I played this deck maybe about, I would say about 15 times. About 15 times against various matchups like a lot of Krillin, some Piccolo, some Raditz. So I've had some various matchups with this deck, and I feel like it's very strong. It angers extremely quickly. You'll get to your level 2 first combat every game. Like there's no question. With this level 1 power, you're getting to your level 2. Primarily, you're going to be hitting 3 very quickly. And even if you don't really get off 3, that's okay. Your 3 is going to slow down the game. It's just going to slow down the game for the opponent because he would have to be crazy to enter on you with a 3-card hand. He's not doing that. He's not going to enter on you with a 3-card hand because it automatically means a 2-card hand. So he's not doing that. He's going to have to enter with a 4-card hand. And even then, you're reducing the overall damage that he's doing to you by taking a card away from him. So really good for slowing down the game, even though it doesn't give you anger, really good for MPPV. And the beats this deck has is surprising. It can randomly physically beat you. With Tree of Might in play, knocking the opponent to 0 with Menace, doing like an elbow drop with Tree of Might, you know, a C, that's 8 damage twice. So it's nothing to stick your nose up at. So now let's go over some of the combos. So some of my favorite combos with this deck, I kind of touched on this a little bit earlier. Raditz level 1 ability, of course, reveal the top 2 cards of your life deck, place 1 and banish into your hand and banish the other. Combos really nicely with both Saiyan Scouting and Saiyan Driveby. Both of them put cards to the top of your life deck so you can essentially choose the card that you would like to draw into your hand. So great combos here. Next combo that I'd really like to talk about is, of course, the level 2. And a big issue with this card is always trying to actually activate it. So sometimes it's a little hard to activate it, and putting into play a setup or drill during combat is not the easiest thing to do in the world, but it does give you anger, so it is worth actually trying to do, like playing the cards in order to do that. And the two main ways that you can do that is Saiyan Menace, which if it's rejuvenated, you place it into play instead, so then it would of course be entering play, activating his ability, milling a card, and gaining an anger. So the two main rejuvenation methods we have in the deck is of course Saiyan Rescue. We only play one copy because the deck really doesn't revolve around Menace. I know, people, it's hard to believe, but you know, for Saiyan Raditz, it's a one-trick pony. All you need to do is Dirty Tactics, Menace first turn. All you need to do one dev blow and you lose the game. No, people. You know, I still have NPVV as my victory condition. I can still gain anger with plenty of other cards in my deck. I don't need Menace to win the game, but it is really nice and a constant threat for the opponent. So if I have high threat cards in my deck that the opponent is worrying about and playing around, then that's a good thing for me. So the other card to rejuvenate is of course Saiyan Driveby, which I'm just going to choose a card, any card with endurance, and then just rejuvenate Menace, bringing it into play. So the other way we can play setups during combat is of course offensive guard. And this just gives us a guardian drill ability, which we can just play any setup or drill from our hand into play during combat. All of these gain an anger, and these are just great. I love that this ability gains anger. It's one of the only personalities in the game, Raditz is, that gains anger on both his level 1 and level 2 ability. Piccolo would be another one, and look how good he is. Another combo, of course, would be Backbreaker. And the great thing about Backbreaker is, of course, shuffling Wallbreaker, or shuffling a opposing attached card, like say if the opponent has Red Stomach Dive, or you know, 19 may be prominent, so that 19's attached card, Black Capture. There are plenty of attached cards out there, and I'm sure that they're going to be more and more as the game continues. But it is always great to be able to self-activate this, and you can shuffle in one of these three. My favorite is, of course, shuffling in Raditz Offensive Guard, because you banish it when you level, so say, and this card's amazing. I mean, it's an Omni block and a +4 damage physical. It's both. It does everything you could possibly want. So hell yeah, I'm gonna want these back in my life deck. I'll shuffle it in and gain lots of anger. So of course, the final combo that we gotta talk about is the Menace combo, the ultimate Menace combo. Menace for days, Menace forever. So there are a few cards that activate this combo. And the great thing about it, and let me get my other Menace here, because it's important that you can actually play all three Menaces into play when you have this, when you're level 4. So the key word on here is whenever one of your setups or drills enter play, choose a card in your discard pile and rejuvenate it. So what do? You activate Saiyan Rescue. You rejuvenate a card. Rejuvenate Saiyan Menace. It comes into play. A setup or drill enters play, activating his level 4 ability. Rejuvenate a card. Rejuvenate another Saiyan Menace. Enters play. It enters play. Rejuvenating another card. Rejuvenate Saiyan Menace. It enters play. So essentially, every time you rejuvenate Menace, you can bring every Menace that's in your discard pile back into play. So this makes Rescue be, you know, at least 2 or 3 Saiyan Menace. A Drive-By is 2 or 3 Saiyan Menace. You can do Saiyan Menace, you know, 5 to 9 times in combat fairly easily. Even if the opponent just has one ally in play, that is a ton of milling. You know, if they're at 0, they will mill. It's not to a minimum of 0. So they're just going to mill a ton of cards. And of course, the other part of Raditz's level 4 ability, first time you do critical damage effect, you can search your life deck or discard pile for a setup or drill and place it into play. Of course, Sagacious Strike. Now, the other one that I don't play, which I'm kind of sad about, I would really like to play it, and before I shot this video, I was trying to fit it in, is Pinpoint Blast, because it's an instant crit and has endurance. I just could not find the room for it. It's on like my primary bench for this deck. I want it in this deck. I just can't find the room right now. But Sagacious Strike is just as good, if not better. You can make it unstoppable, so no worry about time or any blocks the opponent has. And then you can just make a setup or drill, enter play from either your life deck or discard pile. Hey, bring Menace in play. Get all your menaces back. Just keep menacing. And of course, although, you know, and that's if you're going to go for beats. You can do the menace combo if you're going to go for beats, but if you're going to go for MPPV, use the level 4 ability to get Saiyan Enraged in play. Because not only will Saiyan Enraged give you 2 anger, but it'll also draw you a card, which could possibly be more anger. So now, let's just go over kind of a general strategy, how you're going to play out the different matchups. Alright, so how are you going to fare in the different matchups? No, this is the Rampaging Mastery, not the Empowered Mastery. I know people. Proxy this. Rampaging Mastery. MPPV, that's what we're going for, people. Alright, so how are you going to fare in different matchups? So you're going to start on level 1, and you have a strong advantage on your level 1. You're going to start the game, and you should feel super comfortable and confident. Your deck runs about an even split of planning, defense, and attacking cards. So you can pretty much cherry pick whatever you need in combat with your level 1 power. And you can sit pretty. Like if you get entered on and draw you know, maybe 2 planning cards, you can bet by golly, you can bet that there's going to be a defense card or a Raditz offensive guard to make use of some of those setups in play in the top 2 of your life deck. And since it does gain you an anger, you only need 3 anger to jump off of your level 1. So you're gonna want to be aggressive on your level 1. And if you face certain matchups, like especially if you're facing more of a control deck, like if you're facing a deck that you know plays a lot of drills and setups, you may want to enter in on them. Now, granted, usually what I like to do is I like to have at least 1 or 2 defensive cards in my hand and 1 or 2 attacks in my hand. I don't like to go into combat without defense at all with this deck, because my goal is to MPPV. My goal is to slow down the game and just level and then really catch steam and then seal the game on my level 3 and my level 4. So if I get too aggressive early, that's not going to happen. If the opponent gets out early against me and manages to do 20 or 30 cards to me, it's going to be really tough for you to come back from that. So you're going to want to play it safe, but know how powerful you are in the beginning. You get a little weaker as you go up until you hit the 4. The 4 is where you shine, but the 1 is definitely the second in terms of power. So if you're facing a control, know that you want to go in early, especially taking advantage of the fact that you probably play more attacks than they do, more defenses than they do. So take advantage of that, but if you're facing an aggro deck, just be passive. Don't even worry about it. You play enough planning cards that you can start to build up your board with Enraged and with Menace and with Intimidation. You'll have a few of those in play, and you'll be able to just kind of sit back on them. And then they'll have to enter on you, and then you'll just be able to most likely jump up in the first combat anyway, and just really crutch on your level 1 power, forcing you up to the level 2. Now the level 2 is really great if you just want to just sit and mill them for a little bit. I usually get a good 3 to 4 damage out of this ability a game. It is sometimes more. So you can. This deck will survival victory. I think this deck is about 50-50 right now for survival and for MPPV. So it's winning about half-half. Although the deck is designed to do MPPV. But of course the problem is that once your opponent knows that, once your opponent realizes that's what you're doing, he's going to focus on that. He's going to, save the devastating blows, try to Wallbreaker you, etc., etc. So if he disrupts your MPPV, you have to fall back on the beats, and you have to be able to do that. And the level 2, kind of helps with that. So you jump up to the level 2, and you can play passively, and you can just mill them and force them in combat. Because they know that if they just don't enter combat, you're just going to keep playing setups and keep doing damage to them while you do that. So, the level 2, it doesn't give you any real card advantage. So if you're facing like a control deck, you're just going to want to wait for the opportune hand and just try to level up to the 3. and just against aggressive. But really, you're just not going to be entering with this deck. You have to kind of pick and choose your combats. You have to really wait for the perfect hand. And like I said, and that's going to be a hand with some blocks and some attacks. I really don't like entering in with attach cards in my hand. Like if I have if I have a rescue, or if I have a strength test in my hand, I don't really like entering with that. Or even like a control card like Scouting. I don't really like entering with that because Scouting is excellent, but it's only really useful at the end of combat when you can set up your top and what you're going to draw. So it's kind of like you're crippling yourself. You're taking a card out of your hand, and I don't want to go on the aggressive when I'm already down a card. So your three is gonna be where you're gonna go turbo aggressive. You're your 3, you're 1 level away from your 4, which is where you shine, which is where you really seal the game, and you are just you're sitting so pretty right now. You're just happy-go-lucky. You're without a care in the world, because entering in on your opponent, this power takes away your opponent's ability to hold a card, and holding a card in this game is crucial. If you're facing an anger deck, you hold a Dev Blow, you hold a Wallbreaker, you hold a Shoulder Slam, you're gonna hold some powerful Maximum Will, Head Knock, you're gonna hold some powerful anti-anger card. Just enter on your opponent when he's not expecting it. If you pass for the first 4 turns, 5 turns, and you're your level 3, you pass for the first 5 turns, your opponent is not going to expect you to enter on you. Your opponent's going to wait for the best hand he can. That's why you throw him off guard, you throw him off guard, and you enter on him and just discard that card and level like a fiend, jump up to the 4 in that combat. Now the level 4, once you get here, your goal is to do critical damage. Now the rejuvenation ability is great even outside of combat. You can just sit back during your planning phases, play setups, and then just keep rejuvenating cards. You're gonna of course want to rejuvenate cards you want to draw. And there are a lot of really strong physical attacks in this deck with endurance, like the spin kick. I really like putting this card back into my deck. It's really strong, it has anger, and it has endurance. So just, sit back and keep rejuvenating as much as you can with level 4 power, and then just wait for that critical damage. Because once you hit the critical damage, and you will, either by Sagacious Strike or by knocking, Menace combo, they'll be so worried about the goddamn Menace combo. They're going to be so worried about it. Like, oh god, I have to worry about Menace so bad. They're not even going to realize that you're about to hit 5 anger and win the game. And that's how most of my matches are going. I'm doing 2 things at once simultaneously, and I'm being defensive and I'm being control-y, and it's hard for your opponent to know what to do against this deck, how to win. Because, okay, so you can shut down my leveling, well then you gotta worry about the beats, then you gotta worry about, all the board control that I have. It just does a lot of different things, and that's what makes this deck so great and so fun to play. Guys, this deck is so fun to play. I've played it only, about 15 to 20 times in set 4. I played it a little bit during set 3. I didn't really have that much success with it, mainly because it couldn't MPPV in set 3. So now with the new mastery, it can. So please take advantage of that. Use the new mastery, not this mastery. Use the new mastery, and take advantage of the MPP victory condition and use Raditz to his full potential. Alright, so I hope you guys liked my Saiyan Raditz deck breakdown video. I hope you liked my deck. It's a pretty good deck. I like it. I'm going to keep improving on it, just like I have been improving my Black Trunks build. I'm actually going to come out with probably, Black Trunks build 3.1, where I have several improvements I want to make to the build. And likewise, I'm going to come out with Red Turles, and probably Blue Nappa, and some others. So I'm going to keep coming out with deck list videos. I hope you guys enjoy these. Rate, comment, subscribe, love, peace all around.